I don't typically get into political discussions unless it's interesting to me. Our democracy gets threatened by something every couple business days, so it really takes some earth-shattering to catch my attention.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
Y'all might have seen some videos about Project 2025, or maybe you haven't. Maybe it's too complicated for you to pay attention, or you dislike the drama around it. I feel you. Trust me. This one's pretty important, though. Project 2025 is a conservative political strategy designed to make the Elephant Party substantially more effective. I happen to have a pretty intelligent audience, which has been a gift and a challenge, depending on the topic. Most of y'all are probably asking one question after getting things like this in the mail. Is Project 2025 really tied to Trump or no? Project 2025 has an official website, so before we go any further, we should probably check it out. After the first click, it tells us to get the facts. I bet. I'll bite. Then we hit a page claiming to have the truth about Project 2025. And this first paragraph is already full of some inflammatory shit. Who wrote it? That's right below. The site claims this collection of policy suggestions was put together by 100 respected organizations from across the conservative movement. That's vague. Who actually wrote it? After clicking this link, we finally got the full list of contributors. I've already seen some names that concern me based on what I know about them, and Googling Christopher Miller led me directly to this article by CNN that makes it a whole lot easier for us to cut to the chase. 6 of Trump's cabinet secretaries, 4 of Trump's appointed ambassadors, and 130 other people from his administration were involved in drafting this 900-page document. Not to mention the Heritage Foundation, which created this site and took the lead on organizing this effort. They're essentially a right-leaning think tank that issues policy recommendations on a regular basis. I'm sure you could call the author's list circumstantial evidence, and that would be true. If you're determined not to see a connection, you won't see it. Here's some more though, just to be sure. The Washington Post reported in 2022 that Trump was on a private flight with the Heritage Foundation's organizer on his way to their conference, where he said this.
This country is going to hell. The critical job of institutions such as Heritage is to lay the groundwork, and Heritage does such an incredible job at that. This is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detailed plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America. And that's coming. That's coming.
Still circumstantial? Feeling a little more solid? Yeah, I thought so too. His name is in the document at least 300 times, and the overlap with his stated plans is way too extensive. So let's get into this summary in their own words. The left has spent millions fear-mongering. This is hilarious. That's a perfect definition of everything the right has done since before I was even born. I actually don't think I've ever seen a positive conservative political ad in my life. It's not typically in their playbook. To further that point, look at what comes next. They list several things that either don't have easy solutions, were caused by conservative policies in the first place, or are extremely vague. The goal here is to catch your attention via buzzwords and get you hype enough to think they're gonna fight for us, the American people. What's this deep state they refer to here? That has a definition too. A body of people, typically influential members of government agencies or the military, believed to be involved in the secret manipulation or control of government policy. Not only is that fear-mongering to the extreme, it implies that if there is this shadowy cabal of supervillains, that none of them are conservatives. Hilarious, to say the least. Only leftists are elites? Word. Secure the border. The reason this is first on the list is xenophobia. While keeping our borders secure is a very logical goal for any nation, we have to put this into context. We're no longer living in a political environment where there's respectful debate about two politicians' platforms. Nah, it's a catfight. Fox News and conservative politicians have said some pretty inflammatory things about migrants that help us see through the respectable veneer here.
A surge of migrants is straining resources in big cities and small. You know this. It's all across the nation.
Isabella Diaz from Mother Jones points out some dialogue from David Brogg, organizer of the first National Conservatism Conference that drew out famous conservatives like Missouri Senator John Hawley, Ohio Senator and now Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance, Fox News' Tucker Carlson, and tech billionaire Peter Thiel. Brogg opened his first speech like this: "We give no aid to our immigrants when we permit the erosion of the very culture that motivated them to move here in the first place." See what I mean? That sentence pretends to focus on making the country better for illegal immigrants, as if it's their real priority. Kind of like pro-life people tend to pretend they care about children once they leave the womb.
Why you boring me? I'm right.
They say they want to enforce existing laws, aggressively build a wall on the southern border, identify and reject fraudulent asylum claims, restore the Remain in Mexico policy for asylum seekers while they're processing, and, of course, arresting, detaining, and removing immigration violators. Red flags. Existing laws include temporary protections from deportation for non-citizens and extended green cards. That last one as of earlier this year. Y'all plan to enforce those or no? Restoring Remain in Mexico sounds like you clearly don't. How do you define fraudulent claims? Last I checked, an alarming number of conservatives thought the election itself was fraudulent.
Dave, I do not consider you an expert on this issue. As a matter of fact, I consider you a major problem. For you to say there were no dead voters in Georgia, there was thousands of dead voters in Georgia. And I'm going to tell you, there was blatant outright fraud. Trump won Georgia. I know you don't like for me to say that, but I am convinced that he did.
She's convinced. For the record, the former president lost Georgia by 11,779 votes in a state run by Republicans.
As for these aggressive construction projects, I think we've seen how that has gone so far, and I think we know exactly who promoted that most loudly.
Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall.
This chart from a Brookings report lays out the estimates for the construction of the border wall around 2017. And it's clear that all conservatives drastically underestimated the cost. Not only that, but a 30-foot wall that runs 6 feet deep can still very much be scaled or tunneled under. Not only that, but most drugs that cross the border don't need to cross illegally. They're brought over via one of the 52 legal ports of entry. The push for the wall is full of holes, pun intended. Bruh, that's just one category of Project 2025, and I'm already tired of talking about it. For the rest of these, I'll pick out one or two things that stand out as particularly dangerous just to get the point across. Unleashing energy. Under this section, they say they want to stop collaborating with and funding progressive organizations supporting climate fanaticism. Like fanatics. As we've seen time and time again, fanaticism is typically defined as caring about climate change at all, or bringing it up during discussions about our oil and gas consumption. Anything that threatens the power of big oil gotta go. Not only that, but they got some real nerve mentioning climate at all, considering Trump's gutting of the EPA during his administration. They're the primary office tasked with keeping environmental regulations updated and enforced. So if they have a climate change denier leading them, or lack funding in general, it doesn't exactly help in times of crisis. I know, I said I'd keep it to one, but the next point is connected. They say they want to end the war on fossil fuels, which is ridiculous. Directing funding towards sustainable energy sources is not the same thing as a war on fossil fuels. Pretty sure I heard I love fracking during the last debate too. I'm not sure if y'all caught that though. Climate change should be focused on science, even if you disagree that it's happening. This manifesto plans to replace credible scientists with Trump loyalists who will bend the facts to say whatever the hell he wants them to. This one smells like a conspiracy theory from the title alone: de-weaponize the federal government and dismantle the deep state. I think the thing I dislike most about these talking points is how contradictory they are. Consolidating power in the executive branch is a major facet of their overall strategy, which is echoed by Trump telling people that in 4 years, you won't have to vote again. The fact that woke propaganda made it into an official summary of Project 2025 is kind of all I need to say. Woke has become a buzzword that refers to anything involving minorities or queer people, and it betrays an actively aggressive tone here. To put it lightly, being woke has always been a good thing because it refers to awareness of the inequities within society. We have to deal with non-Black people ruining our slang enough as is. But what y'all did to that term is a tragedy, truly. And another thing, they criticize the power of unelected bureaucrats in government, as if lobbyists aren't a major part of how anything gets passed or blocked on both sides of the aisle. Trump made multiple lifetime appointments to the Supreme Court. They aren't elected either. It's the same kind of vague, hypocritical language we get from most politicians. Improving education. I wonder what this means to the same Republicans that put Betsy DeVos in charge of the Department of Education, a ridiculously rich woman who put a focus on religious education and openly pushed for the department itself to be considered irrelevant. She also turned around and used her power to threaten schools that wouldn't reopen during the height of the pandemic. So, pick a side. Promoting parents' rights in public education so American schools serve parents, not the other way around. Schools don't exist to serve parents at all. They exist to educate children. And we don't need parents' ridiculous religious ideas to interfere with that process. Go to a private school for that shit.
We know who you are. We know who you are. You can leave freely, but we will find you, and we know who you are. We know who you are.
I see you. We know what you're doing. They want to dismantle the department and send those tasks to other areas of government, which is crazy. And removing critical race theory and gender ideology curricula from public schools is just their religious and racial discrimination speaking out loud. We can say the pledge every damn day for years, which is basically a nationalist loyalty pact. But no, scary ideas about race and gender won't work. They also want to reduce funding for public schools and scale back resources that help disadvantaged kids succeed. Reproductive rights, oh boy. Roger Severino authored this section of it, and he was the former director of the Office of Civil Rights in the Department of Health and Human Services. After you read the beginning of this, you'll see why that's a major yikes. I've never appreciated how religion creeps its way into our government functions, and their stances on reproductive rights are one major reason why. This man said, radical actors inside and outside government are promoting harmful identity politics that replaces biological sex with subjective notions of gender identity and bases a person's worth on his or her race, sex, or other identities. This is their way of trying to kill any care or services directed towards transgender people or anyone on the sexual identity spectrum, while also attacking their integrity. That's exactly what the authors of these policies are doing by insisting that their opinions are the only ones that matter. Severino also says the federal government should not restrict providers' ability to discharge their responsibilities or limit their ability to innovate through government pricing controls. A whole lot of words to let us know that you essentially want to let drug companies run up the price of insulin to the point where diabetic people die trying to ration it out. Misleading words can do a lot of damage. There's no way for me to cover all this. I encourage everyone to read it at the link in the description. Every other sentence is inflammatory. I hate everything about it. Suffice to say this, they claim they don't want to ban abortions without exception on the homepage. But Severino says this: the secretary must ensure that all HHS programs and activities are rooted in a deep respect for innocent human life from day one until natural death. Abortion and euthanasia are not healthcare. Project 2025 wants to enact a surveillance state over patients and doctors to uphold this, meaning doctors could be arrested when providing life-saving medical care to pregnant people. I can't stress this enough. We can't believe anything we see on this summary page. Deception works because nobody actually reads these documents. I had to go inside because these mosquitoes were having a conference on my legs. Y'all have no idea what I go through for you. Religion keeps coming back in sneaky ways, and I need y'all to see it for real. Severino says, families comprised of a married mother, father, and their children are the foundation of a well-ordered nation and healthy society. Then he says current policies are fraught with agenda items focusing on LGBTQ+ equity, subsidizing single motherhood, disincentivizing work, and penalizing marriage. You have the right to believe what you want, but when you draft policy proposals claiming a straight family is the only way to achieve a well-ordered nation and healthy society, your line in the sand is hella clear. There's nothing unfortunate about promoting equity for LGBTQ+ people. What the hell are you even talking about? Where's the proof for these claims? Just out here talking shit. They're paving the way to scale back rights and resources for anyone who does not submit to their idea of family. All right, this whole debunking the lies section of the site is more stretching the truth and outright lies. They're smart enough to know that this plan could lose them the election. So they try to distance it from Trump on the surface. But as the leader of the Republican Party, he'd be the one carrying this out. And his own policy proposals show where he stands. They're also so prideful and arrogant that they keep all this nuclear family religious bullshit in the document, telegraphing their extremely far-right positions in every other sentence. Again, read it for yourself. The link is below. Don't say I ain't warn you. Thanks for watching, for real. Next time, we'll follow this piece up with live footage featuring some politicians for the first time in the channel's history. Deep dives will be delayed for a while, but we'll return with that smoke, literally. See y'all real soon.
What's wild to me is that it's 2023 and she's still talking about 2020. She won both her elections in 2020 and 2022. I don't think she's questioning those outcomes.